Clem. I don't know if because I have an old car too. Mine still has a record player.
Mine actually has a hole in the floor, so
that's not going to pass inspection, Clem. That's not going to pass.
Well, it's Nebraska, so it will. But nonetheless.
Oh, okay. So he's like Fred Flintstone. He doesn't need the floor. He just uses his feet to just.
It's great. Okay. You're just driving down the road. You throw your beer bottles through the floor. It's perfect.
This podcast is not financial advice. It is for entertainment purposes only. Get ready to laugh your assets off because this is the Lighter Side of Finance podcast. Now here's your host, Billy C.
All right, we are here. Episode number 2. We actually survived to episode number 2 of the Lighter Side of Finance. We made it through the week, and we're back again. Yeah, so we have, of course, our panelists here with us. We have Clem Jameson, and we have Tara Jean O'Brien, JP Lambiase, and we have our special guest with us, which we're going to be talking to Robert in just a little bit. Today, we're talking about FICO scores, and we have a lot of questions for Robert. And hopefully we, have the right answers. No, he's the one with the answers. That's right. He's the one with the answers. Yeah. And we're just going to do our best with what we've got. But so the topic that we really want to dive into is borrowing money. And there's a lot of factors that go into borrowing money. Mm-hmm. So I mentioned one of them as we started the program, but I mean, just like comedians don't file for taxes, they don't need to borrow any money from anybody anytime.
Allegedly.
I'm going to say that's not true. In general, every day I need to borrow money.
They get a car somehow.
That's right.
We talked about that last week. I got my motorcycle through tax evasion. So, yeah.
All right. Well, our guest this week on the Lighter Side of Finance, Robert Goldsmith. So one of the first things that I know this word comes up a lot, and usually mine is never high enough to even put on a form. What is a FICO score?
The Fair Isaac Credit Reporting Act. So basically what it is, over the last 3 decades, is a means for a creditor to determine almost immediately whether or not you're a good credit risk. So how do you have one? It's an interesting take. The old cliche, you can't get a job or job experience till you have a job. Well, you can't get a FICO score till you get credit. So typically the first thing that's going to be required for somebody starting out is a cosigner. Okay. So by default, everything is going to be predicated on your cosigner, and that cosigner will be the one that's accepting the responsibility. And it does go on their credit history as well as the borrower, because when that person now goes to apply for any kind of credit anywhere else, it's going to be notated that that individual also has another responsibility.
So I have a quick question on that, because I've heard this before, that it's only like 3 decades old, this credit scores and the credit reporting agencies too, correct?
Correct.
So before that, what did everybody do? Just like rock, paper, scissors? Like, I'd like to buy a house. Like, will you give me money? Like, how do you...
They just spit in their hand and shook on it, right?
Oh.
That's it.
So years ago, bankers probably did that. Now, I'm going to say a little bit of that might be somewhat before my time. Maybe not before Bill's, but before my time. You can't, as a bank manager, go out and just make a loan to somebody because you know them. They have to meet certain criteria in most cases.
So is FICO the same as like just Credit Karma, like your credit score?
No, Credit Karma helps you get a better FICO score. But what you're looking for all intents and purposes, is what are the scoring agencies, TransUnion, Experian, right, et cetera, right? So those are the big ones. So if you're going, say, for an example, to get a car, they're going to run either an Experian report or TransUnion, and those reports can come up all together as well. Today, there's a company called LexisNexis, like the car, L-E-X, right, L-E-X-E-S, Nexus, N-E-X-I-S, and that has everything about you, I think, that you've ever done. It's like the FBI report. So if you filed a claim on a homeowner's insurance, or an automobile report, or your credit report, almost everything in the world is contained on that. And now a lot of people are starting to use that as the big one because it covers all of them.
Now I have a question regarding like not criminal because we don't want to like get banned, but I do know that people are in a rut. What are your thoughts on these other like underground lending places that are like, oh, we don't care what your score is? Is that normally a scam, or is there like a higher? What do they? Because I heard about that.
So there's a number of different ways. Like there's payday advance, right, where somebody gets an advance on their paycheck, and obviously there's a usury amount of interest that is charged, so that the person lending the money is taking the risk, knows they're going to make some profit, and it's all about the law of high numbers, meaning that they know 75 to 80%, sometimes closer to 90%, will actually pay it back, right? They're willing to take the risk on the 10% because the rates they charge is so high, it gets them more money. So if you went to a car dealer and he says, we're financing that car, there's a lien on that car, which gives them the ability to repossess that car and then sell it elsewhere. Sometimes they'll make money on it. So they're hoping you don't pay it back, but the interest rates are so high, they don't care it, because you and I both know that if you're like Carvana, right, the biggest now new car dealership in the sky, right? Well, they know they're going to pay $4,000 to $5,000 less than they're going to sell it for. They take the law of high averages and figure out where they're going to be. And sometimes they're making the loans themselves, or they have a third party that is buying the paper. Okay. So, there's a secondary market for almost everything. Like when you buy a home, your mortgage doesn't always stay with the company that actually approved you and originally lent you the money. They're now selling it at a discount because they want more money so they can generate it in fees.
So that's what got us into the 2008 crash and the mess, was that like
mortgage-backed securities.
Right. Which was
now, that was a whole different story.
So I guess I have another question. So back to the credit score and this 30 years ago thing. Like, do you who was the like mad scientist, evil monster that came up with this whole idea? That we're like, okay, you know how we can verify people that have money? We're going to create this whole new thing called a credit score. Like do we know who they did and why?
Great question. I could not tell you, but I would speculate it had to do with the bureaus.
Yeah. It's just so funny to think I think most people just don't even think about the world before a credit score.
I'm looking at the way the world's going to work today, right? This whole FICO score is just like the evolution of social media. Like we're at the point now where you're like, oh, how many subscribers you got, how many followers you got. And it's all valid. It's all validity. It's all social proof and validity. Mm-hmm. And as monstrous and as exposing as it is, like just think about the world, be like, hey, what's your FICO score? Oh, it's that low, like luckily that's still just kind of more private information for us to get approved for stuff. But I do believe that all falls under that social umbrella of, are you valid?
Yeah.
To be like, yeah.
Well, remember that report I told you about LexisNexis? That basically is all encompassing, right? That's literally the same thing. It knows your driving record. It knows whether you filed a claim on your homeowner's insurance. It knows almost everything about you. So if you do it, it's done. The only thing I don't think it's done is your Ancestry.com.
It knows if you've had a litigation against you.
Oh.
Yeah.
It is.
Silence.
Feels like the beginning of a Terminator movie.
It does.
A little bit here. Hey, you talked about cosigners. I got a serious question about cosigners. Will one of you co-sign for me? I'm not talking to the comics, obviously, because you guys, I know what comics are. We don't have money, but
beat me to the question.
Clem, I am not taking that liability. I'm just going to put that out there. All right.
Hey, can you put your mom
I think
on?
that's
Maybe
why. Yeah. Her collateral is all this yarn.
But, it's kind of like it's the Carfax for us, and since we talked about cars and buying, with whether you're borrowing or leasing, what is actually better? Any opinions on that? Leasing versus buying a car?
I am a big advocate of leasing for the right person. Now, leasing does require a higher degree of FICO score. I'm going to use that as a degree. But it is definitely an advantage because you are paying less in monthly payments. So I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you guys have been in love with cars that are 14, 15 years old. And I don't mean as a classic collector. I mean, that's what you really want to drive.
Well, it's what I have
That's my
now.
daily driver.
Yeah, I was like, that's what I have.
I love my car, but yeah.
When you see a new car on TV, aren't you motivated to say, how can I get one? Or you see all the toys on it, right? So for example, I have a newer vehicle that has a computer generated dashboard.
Yeah.
You literally have to go in and set up everything so that the car will work. Like, for example, one of the things I didn't know is I had one of the doors ajar. And when I turned the car on, put it in reverse, it would start and stop immediately. It would not go. I didn't know what was going on. I actually had to call the dealer to find out how to get my car to operate because the computer was shutting it down. Then we took our cat on a long distance journey from comedy show to comedy show. And he got into the front and he stepped on a valet mode. And my car on the freeway went from 70 miles an hour to slowing down. Thankfully, I had an exit ramp that I could get off because I didn't know how to operate it. So computers can be challenging with these car todays, but everyone sees them and they want them, right?
Clem, I don't know if because I have an old car too. Mine still has a record player. How about yours? Is it?
Well, mine actually has a hole in the floor, so there's a hole in the floor.
That's not going to pass inspection, Clem. That's not going to pass.
Well, it's Nebraska, so it will. But nonetheless.
Oh, okay. So he's like Fred Flintstone. He doesn't need the floor. He just uses his feet to just.
It's great.
Okay.
You're just driving down the road. You throw your beer bottles through the floor. It's perfect. You know?
Perfect.
So my 2 cents on leasing and financing. I love how you said financing because owning is way different. That means you just got the cash to just buy a car out, which obviously comics. But because I was running a business, when you run a business, leasing, you're able to just write off the car as a business car. So you just write off the lease. Whereas when you own it, you have to do like taxes get a little bit more convoluted. With also the point being made on leasing, I understand that us as most human beings and most human nature, we want the new goodie. So unless you are like a Clem that's like, I got my F-150 86 and you still have it and you love it and you've the maintenance and you are a mechanic and you know how to fix your car and you can keep that cat purring, then yeah, buy it. Then financing a car would be the small caveat, in my opinion, where owning a car and buying a car would be worth it. You know, you love that baby. It's your baby.
JP, you nailed my accent.
My wife has a car that she worked hard for, and she'll never get rid of it. It's a 2006. It's got 70,000 miles on it, convertible top. She loves it.
Wow, 70,000 miles, bro. Like what?
Mine's a 2008. I'm not going to tell you how many miles are on it.
Yes. The last car I just got rid of, it was an 04 with 400,000 miles on it. No kidding. Yeah.
What? 400? I didn't even know you could do that. You should keep a car. You should buy a car, finance a car just for the accolade. Just like of how many miles? Because like I'm impressed. Like I'm like Bill, dude. Hats off to you. I'm like previous mechanical engineer. I am proud of that 400,000 mile vehicle.
So Bill, I got to ask you a question though. How often did you end up having to go to a repair shop to get like a new transmission or some new brakes or new fuel pump or whatever?
Oh yeah, there was always maintenance with it, and you know, as General Motors will say that the engine will last the life, or no, the timing chain will last the life of the engine. So pretty much as soon as the timing chain goes, the engine goes, and so pretty much I put 2 engines in the car, multiple other work, put a new transmission in it. But I would have still been driving it if the body had not started to rot.
To rot.
We got
a problem.
We got Tim the Toolman Taylor here. Ho, 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 ho.
But you know, actually, with what you said about trucks, see, I'm a GM guy, so for me, it's an '84 Chevy C10 with no floor.
Yeah.
I want to like question you on this point because my whole life, like my dad and my husband are going to listen to this and they're going to lose their minds that you're saying this about leasing versus buying. My whole everybody in my life is like you are wasting money by leasing a car and trying to keep up with the Joneses and do the whole thing. And I will say like so I have a 2008 Prius which has 215,000 miles on it. It's going strong. I have put, when you want to say like maintenance, I put nothing into this car. I buy new tires and I've changed the brakes once. Like that's what this car requires, which is nothing.
She can't stop, but
I don't stop, but that's not my
changed
problem.
the brakes.
That's not my problem.
Right. Someone else's problem.
I don't need to stop. I'm busy. I have things to do.
Absolutely.
But I'm just
Sure.
I really want to like just press more on like why you think like because you can lease it, but then you'll never own it, and so you will always be stuck with a car payment.
Not necessarily. So remember I said that cash flow is king, correct?
Sure.
So what you could do it's all about doing the math. So let's assume I was going to put $5,000 down on a new car and finance 30 grand. So I then figure out that my payments on that are probably going to be somewhere around $550 to $600 minimum a month. Conversely, I might be able to lease that car for $2,000 out of pocket and then have payments about $300 a month. So now my payments have dropped dramatically. I still have cash flow to service other debt or save money for retirement, or I could even save that money. And if I said I love that car at the end of my 3-year lease, I might be able to use that money and pay off the car. I might be able to use the extra money. It's kind of like I'm leasing and investing the difference in the payments and then making a new different game plan for myself, but I have access to the cash. Cars are depreciating vehicles. The savings is an accumulating vehicle. I now got savings. And oh, by the way, even if I was to finance that car for 5 or 6 years versus leasing for 3, I might be able to go lease a brand new one for 3. I still got payments for 6 years and decide what I want to do next. And who knows how much my life changes over that period of time. That doesn't mean a lease is right for everybody. If you're a guy who fixes and drives trucks 25,000 miles a year, it's probably not going to work. It will keep your cash flow down, but you're going to have to buy the car at the end of the lease. But here's the best part. At the end of the lease, you get a predetermined price. You know what your payoff is.
Right.
And you can even go look at a 3-year car on Kelley Blue Book and say, hey, here's what those are going to be worth in 3 years. Hey, I got a good deal. So I've done that with some cars, and then I'll maybe sell it. But at the end of the day, it's always about using your money to the best way possible. And to me, if I'm saying I'm leasing a car, but now I can afford my house, I got the best of both worlds.
So in 2020, I actually leased a Jeep. It's the only time I've ever leased a vehicle. It's actually the only time I've ever had a new car. And the predetermined price was set in 2020. Of course, the price of used cars skyrocketed in like 2022. At that point, I realized that what I owed on my payout, including the fees to break the lease, would have actually been less than half of what the car was worth. So I ended up having a payout of $14,000 on a $30,000 car.
Bingo.
So right there, I cheated the system and won for a change, right? The system did not kick my butt that time.
And that's an anomaly because of the circumstances. But at the same token, that doesn't mean that you can't break even, right? You can always look at that car and say, hey, I know what it is, but here's the best part. Let's say at the end of the 39 months, 36 months, 48, whatever it is I leased it for, I decided, you know what? I don't even like it. And the car's worth less, but I kept it under the mileage. I can just turn that car in and I'm starting over again. But if I own that car, I'm going to take a beating in the resale value. So there's an opportunity to sometimes look at leasing as an advantage. Now, again, good credit required to get qualified for a lease. You do have to realize you're not going to own it. You do have to try to drive it not 100,000 miles, but stay within the limits. You can go to 15,000 miles a year for about an extra $20 a month so that it gives you more flexibility within that space. But at the end of the day, I'm not opposed to leasing. I'm also not opposed to financing. It's just predicated on everybody's circumstance. But I like leasing for the flexibility it offers and the freedom to get out of it at some point.
Mileage is actually the reason I started looking into selling my car, because I was realizing I was going to go so far over the mileage that I wouldn't be able to drive it for the last year of the lease. So I ended up, that's why I looked at the buyout in general. And then I found out like, oh yeah, I can scam the system and just buy it out now.
Yeah, you could.
So
you could do that. Number two, you could also do another thing, and that is that you could have 2 cars, okay? Because if you have a second car that you can use for the around town or that stuff, and you want to use one for long trips or vice versa, you can put we have 3 cars, 2 drivers. So we have the flexibility to keep our mileage down on all of our vehicles as a result of the need. Obviously, we got a truck, got a convertible, and I have a SUV. That's what you need in my life, okay? Anyway, that's for me because my wife wants the convertible. We live in a beachy community. I like the SUV because of my dog, and the truck is basically because you own a house and you're always going to need to get some work done. So those are the 3 things you can never do without.
All right, we're talking about the bare necessities today on the lighter side of finance.
Living lean.
Yeah, as comics, we can get a Power Wheels and we can have.
It's still got more power than her Prius.
Yeah, right. True. I was just wondering, what's it like to have a garage, a 3-car garage?
Oh,
living high on the hog, my friend.
When we talk about having a house, earlier you were talking about leasing. If we lease, then we got that extra money we can invest into maybe a mortgage or a house or something. Well, what is the difference between a mortgage and a home equity loan?
Okay, well, first of all, you can't have a home equity loan until you have a mortgage or a house. Okay. So let's start with the mortgage is usually what's used to purchase the house. When you get a mortgage, basically what I'm doing is I'm agreeing to make a payment. I'm building equity, right? But I can't go reuse that again. When I have a home line of credit or home equity line of credit, if I borrow $10,000 to buy or finance a car and then I paid it off, I can go use that money again anytime I want. So it's an advantage to have that line of credit, kind of like when you watch Shark Tank and they say, we'll finance the inventory, and they'll just give them a line of credit to say, we financed it, you paid it off, finance it, paid it off, use it at will.
It's still cheaper, though, to acquire a house through squatters' rights, though, right?
I understand that is the newest and best way to go about it. Although in Florida, I think they just quashed that thing.
I heard that. That's why I don't live in Florida.
They squashed the squatter.
Can you get a line of credit after you squatted in a house and claimed it then?
Have you ever heard the commercial for title insurance to verify that you still own your home and nobody can steal your home by taking over title? So
Sure.
I don't know anything about that, but I'm telling you that probability is that they are basically grabbing your information, finding out what you owe, and then sending in the documents to the courthouse so that they could get records showing that they own the home, then borrowing on it, and then all of a sudden you're gone. So I guess that would be the same thing as squatting, except that you actually did something sneaky in a different way to get it. The other way, I'm just going in and saying, hey, it's kind of like going, hey, I'm going to sit in your car as an Uber driver, or maybe I'm a valet parker, and I park your car, and I go, hey, it's mine. I'm not giving it back to you. So, I mean, that's a possibility. That would be like kind of squatting your car.
Yeah, Bill, I'm so sorry for hijacking both of these episodes and taking them into illegal areas. I know you're trying to run a peaceful, really nice podcast here, but, me and JP's mind just goes that way. So,
And I'm a liar. I do have a garage. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to lead you with.
Yeah.
It's where I keep JP's. It's where I keep the Ponzi scheme products
and the freezers.
JP, didn't you used to live in a garage? I mean, a storage unit or
storage
garage,
unit,
right?
But not the flex. But I do have like a 300-car garage. It's a parking garage, but it's.
We'll be back with more from our panelists after this. Now it's time for the scam of the week with an actual British person. Here's Gareth P. Morris.
Good day. My name's Gareth. I'm a British person from Britain. Today, I'm here to talk to you about how to keep your finances safe by being just a little bit more savvy on the internet. Let's begin. Step 1. Passwords. Far too often, people have the same passwords, such as 12345, password, or I hate gingers, 69. Create a password as unique as you are, such as a couple of items around the house, the last thing that you bought, or I love gingers, 69. Step 2. Two-step. This is where you have 2 different types of verification, normally one on your laptop and then one on your phone. That way, when you make a purchase, you'll be asked to validate on both devices, which makes it a lot safer. Unless, of course, your scammer has got access to your phone and your laptop, in which case he may be making a purchase and also swiping right on a complete hipper-crocker pig on Tinder, and then you might be in trouble for 2 reasons. Step 3. Details. If somebody ever asks you for your mother's maiden name, don't give it. Why would you do that? You crazy person. Stop filling out all those quizzes. It's bad for you. And last but not least, check on your grandma. Scammers love the vulnerable, so make sure they're as savvy as you are and give them those tips. Thank you for listening. I'm off to do some British things now. such as drink tea and invade somewhere. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Gareth. Now let's get back to the lighter side of finance.
Can we talk about credit cards?
Yes.
Good, bad, indifferent?
So here's the thing I'm going to tell you about everything. So I'm writing a new book. I've written 3 of them. This book is entitled From Diapers to It Depends. Okay. When I said, should I buy a house or rent a house? Should I lease a car or finance a car? Should I, get a credit card or not get a credit card? The answer is, the truth be told, everybody has a different DNA when it comes to our body makeup and chemistry. We also have a different DNA into our income and how we pay our bills and what our life is all revolving around. So I can use credit cards just for the premise of having the rewards points on Spirit Airlines or Frontier Airlines or American Airlines so that I can travel for next to nothing, because comedians don't make any money, right? Unless you're the headliner, you don't make any money. So when I'm traveling to feature,
if you fly on Spirit, you might become a spirit. So that's I just feel like,
what's interesting is that Frontier and Spirit have been the brunt of all jokes. But here's the crazy thing. On Spirit, you still have to go through the walk of shame when you get on that plane and you're not in the front 3 rows. So because the front 3 rows have the extra cushions and all that, like I couldn't qualify for first class on Spirit. That's how bad it is.
And being that cheap, you actually have to work a shift cleaning the toilets afterwards on the plane. So it's pretty nice.
I actually have a quick little hack for everyone out there.
Ooh.
With traveling. You drop ship Amazon your clothes, you wear them, and then when you fly back, you return them. No, I have 0 carry-on luggage. I'm just saying.
I'm glad JP just got here. The real JP is here now.
I'm just saying I didn't carry on when I flew here, and that's because I have my own set of Amazon clothes that are dedicated in my mom's guest room.
Wow.
JP, that's next level. That is some next level.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos would not like to hear that, or he would like to hear that.
Ground floor.
He might endorse it because most people might not figure out how to return it. But if I'm going to return it, I'm taking it to Kohl's because I'm going to get another 25% off anything I buy there.
Boom. I just think it's funny that you can actually return food. Like you can return Amazon products at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
I can't even return Whole Foods at Whole Foods. So now I buy my food on Amazon and then I return it at a Whole Foods.
Robert, with everything that we've been talking about, whether having a good FICO score, being able to lease a car, being able to buy a car or a mortgage, whatever, having that property, what advice would you give for, we're getting serious here for a moment, budget, income, what type of advice would you suggest for somebody, maybe that kind of fell on bad FICO score days, times?
So they fell on a bad FICO score. So you don't fall on a bad FICO score. You actually earn that by not paying the bill.
That's
so
right.
Earned it.
That's right.
Worked hard at that.
FICO score. That's right.
Wear it like a badge of honor.
Now that being said, moving out on their own is sometimes the parent responsibility to educate that child with what expenses they're going to incur along the way so that when they make that move, they're prepared. Number one. Number two, I make that move with a roommate or a significant other so that I put myself into a position where I'm not the only one handling the bills, because there's always going to be that time where somebody loses a job or falls behind or has a health issue, and then you have that other person to rely on. When you're on your own, you're literally on your own. So when you first make that move, it's probably best to do it with somebody else to give you comfort, peace of mind, someone to talk to and not feel like you're out on your own as the Lone Ranger. But at the end of the day, as far as the best advice you can give somebody is literally, before they make that move, make sure their job is stable, make sure they know where they want to go. The parents' basement's always cheap. So it's always good, especially in New Jersey, to be able to have a place to go and stay there and maybe accumulate a little bit of a nest egg before you're in a position to just jump out.
All I'm hearing you say is marry rich. That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
there's nothing wrong with that too. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
I did want to bring up credit cards though, because I do think that's a thing that like a lot of people either can exploit or it's at their demise. And through my life as a kid, I've gone through the demise of credit cards. When I'm young, I had a Best Buy credit card because I wanted a PlayStation and I couldn't afford it. But as an adult, I've learned, especially running a business, I've learned to actually exploit credit cards through just like bonus programs and stuff. Just depending on if you spend enough to meet the bonus minimums, and then you reap the rewards and perks from all the cards. So I guess my question is, once you start to leverage the credit card, is there a point in which it's almost like not even worth having that fun little game? Because there's YouTubers all over the space that are showing you like how to like leverage and credit card hack. I want to know your thoughts on that.
So great question. And discipline is always the key, just like starting a diet, right? I have to be totally committed to living up to what my plan is. And sometimes you got to keep a whiteboard so that you can look at, this is when I've got to pay that bill, and you put it on automatic pay. And then, in your phone, a month before that's due, I'm either going to switch credit cards and get a loan to pay it off. You have credit card to credit card. There's always a fee to do that, but you can do that if you are very good and you have self-control and discipline. But credit cards, you almost have to have one, because you cannot, until Venmo and maybe Cash App, you could not rent a hotel or a car or buy anything online unless you had some form of credit. So credit was important, and that card has to exist. Now, that being said, we all know credit cards today, with the higher interest rates over the last couple of years, require people to pay 21, 22, 23% interest to have a balance. So being able to pay off what you buy is important. So make sure that whatever you're buying on credit is because it's a convenience to get the item that you want or need, but you have the ability to pay it off at the end of the month. You don't want to put yourself into a position where you get on minimum payments, because if you do that, yes, your credit score would be good, but you'll see at the middle of the statement, it says, if you continue to make the minimum payments, you will pay it off in 159 years, okay? And so you have to really be cautious about using that. But credit cards can be a tool, just like everything else. It's a great way to establish your credit, just like a car loan. And once you do it, just make sure you make the payments. The things that go into, let me cover this, the things that go into your FICO score. Number one is, how much credit do I have? Do I have a massive amount of credit compared to my credit lines? So the mix of credit is important. The type of credit. Car loans are considered good. Mortgages are considered good. No mortgage, believe it or not, is considered bad. You have to go with, well, why don't you have a mortgage? You're supposed to have a mortgage, right? So mortgage debt is actually going to help your credit score. No mortgage debt cannot. Now, Credit Karma and some of those companies are actually helping you get, what's that one? It's called, I forgot the name of it, where credit boost or something like that, where you can boost your credit score because you're paying your rent, because rent never used to count. Now they're allowing the rent account or your auto insurance to count. So they're making some leeway into the ability to now be able to use those typical expenses as part of a credit history because you're paying them on time. So that's an important thing. But new credit, if you apply for credit and it literally hits your credit score, there's an inquiry that goes on your report, that's going to ding your numbers as well. That will make it go down, okay? So the credit mix, the amount of credit comparison to what your credit lines are, your payment history, the length of your history, all of that goes into it. So for example, I'm going to school and I want to borrow a student loan to get into it. If my parents saved money for college, I might not use that money initially to pay for college. I might want to sock that away someplace else, and then for the first couple of years after college, start making those payments. And if I have the ability to pay it off. So that way I've established that credit history. But it's understanding all the, what I call the rules of engagement when it comes to everything financial. Your 401k comes with rules of engagement. Your Roth IRA comes with rules of engagement, right? Everything that you do has a specific set of rules. And if you don't know how to navigate them, you'll pay more. So one of the phrases in my book is, what you don't know will hurt you. and it's important to understand that part of the process. That's
So
where you need me, and I should charge it.
I'm getting something out of this, and I know this sounds more like something that either Clem or JP would say. But so what you're saying is I make regular payments that can help to boost my FICO score. And so whether I'm paying it to a utility. So if I'm making regular payments to my bookie, does that count?
Yeah, that's my move. So I'm not seeing a real downside to maxing out all of my credit cards and then filing for bankruptcy. What's the downside to that? Is there one?
Well, there used to be zero, because then you go get as much money as you can, and in 7 years you file bankruptcy, and then lenders would lend to you a little bit more aggressively with a higher interest rate, because they knew you couldn't file bankruptcy again to 7 to 10 years. So they were better protected.
Damn.
But I'm not saying that's a good thing to do. Boom. It's not a good thing to do, because today it'll now also be counted as income, and you'll pay taxes on that as well. And it will screw up your credit. So the IRS is going to come after you a little bit.
Uncle Sam's always sticking it to us.
Yeah.
Yes. And he now wants you to report everything you've stolen on your return as income.
Yeah. We'll see.
It's like,
So smash and grab,
yes.
got to claim it.
Yeah. This Louis bag.
Smash
it
and
looks
grabs.
great with me.
Robert, so many things we talked about here. I think that all of us now are learning. I think the biggest takeaways, high FICO score, a good thing. So we should definitely be focusing on that. Looks like leasing might be a better way for some of us to go. We have to actually take some time to save up, maybe make a down payment and own a home. That seems like a good takeaway. And with that, maybe a budget, and actually pay those credit cards on time before the 30-day mark.
Yeah. Home ownership has actually been the greatest creator of wealth in this country.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's outside from the
I thought it would have been corruption.
So,
yeah.
one of the best ways to.
All right. And to our panelists, any last words before we wrap up?
I just will say, like, the whole FICO score seems, I don't know, it still seems like a scam, but I guess that's welcome to America.
I agree.
Just as a general note. But I'm happy to have a really good one. I'm happy to be part of the scam.
If I can add to that, I'm going to tell you that everything we do now is counted. If it's measured, it's counted. If it's important, it's measured and counted. So they know everything about you, like your cell phone tells everybody where you're going, where you've been. So it's become that kind of a world now where we're all just numbers.
How dare you? How dare you?
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
I have a flip phone, so
Yeah.
I don't think it tracks me.
I personally, I got, again, just like every podcast we've done so far, I've learned a tremendous amount. And
Yeah.
Robert, thank you for having us do, all the things, and even the internet not exactly working all the time. I really thought that it was I learned, and I want you to, and
JP, it's too far.
So-
It's too far. It's too close.
Well, if anybody wants to reach me, tell them to call my wife. No, no, they can call me, reach me if they got questions about almost anything financial. My website is Financial 411. If you know what 411 means, you're old, okay? But it's Financial 411 at att.net. And you could do that, or you could find me on Facebook, Instagram at The Financial Pro. So all those are out there. And certainly we cover almost, if it touches you financially, we probably know the answer.
I will say, if you touch me, it will cost you financially.
I don't even know what that means, but it's funny.
This has been the Lighter Side of Finance podcast. Our executive producer is Billy C. Production assistance by Sam Moody. Our opening music is from BillClantonMusic.com. I'm your AI announcer. I am nobody, literally. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Lighter Side of Finance wherever you find us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to visit our website, thelightersideoffinance.com. This podcast is not financial advice. It is for entertainment purposes only. It is intended for you to laugh your assets off. Viewers and listeners be advised.